Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the second annual Tiffin University Women's Leadership Seminar. My name is Vicki Galaska, and I am the Director of Alumni Relations here at Tiffin University. First, I want you all to take an opportunity to introduce yourselves to everyone at the table if you have not done so already. So go ahead and do some introductions. Students, speak up, introduce yourselves. I would like to acknowledge the hard work of the 2015 TUWLS Planning Committee. Can our Planning Committee members please stand? You're scattered throughout the audience. Please stand up for a round of applause. Please stand up. Stand up. We had a lot of members this year. I think Bonnie's got it on the slideshow now. Thank you. I would also like to thank our sponsors. Our seminar sponsor this year was PEPSICO, and our reception sponsor was Reineke Family Dealership, so thank you to our sponsors. I would also like to thank AVI for the catering this evening. They do an awesome job. Thank you very much, AVI. And I would like to thank Higher Ground, our wonderful female a cappella group that entertained us for the first hour of the seminar. They did an awesome job. Thank you, Higher Ground. I would also like to thank the senior leadership here at Tiffin University for supporting this Women's Leadership Seminar. It's very important, and I'm so grateful that you are all here this evening sitting at the table with us and talking about women's leadership. So thank you to our senior leadership. And now I'd like to invite Dr. Paul Marion, the president of Tiffin University.
Well, I too want to welcome everybody to this year's Women's Leadership Seminar. This is a great tradition now, and I hope we can continue it every year. Thanks to all of you for being here, and thanks to Vicki and the other members of the leadership team for organizing this. I have a mother, 2 sisters, a wife, and 2 daughters. So personally, I am very committed to helping women develop leadership skills and for society to honor and appreciate women's leadership skills. We are very fortunate here at Tiffin University to have a number of extremely capable leaders who are women. 2 of our 5 vice presidents, 1 of our 3 deans, 2 assistant vice presidents, many academic program chairs, many administrative department directors, 11 of our coaches of our athletic teams, a number of committee chairs, and a variety of other leadership roles on campus are held by women. And I think the university is very fortunate to have that kind of outstanding leadership among our staff and faculty. And those individuals, along with those of you from the community, provide a wonderful role model for our female students. And Tiffin University's mission statement includes preparing students for productive and satisfying lives of excellent service and leadership. And we take that mission very seriously. And I think it's fair to say that all of us at Tiffin University do everything we can do to help both our male and our female students develop those leadership skills that are going to be so important, not only in their profession, but in their roles in society and in their community as well. So thanks for being with us tonight. We look forward to another very interesting program. And now I'd like to bring 3 of our outstanding female leaders up here to say a few words. And I'll introduce all 3, and they can come and speak one after the other. The first will be Claire Johansson, who chairs the Tiffin University Board of Trustees. Dr. Lillian Schumacher, who is our Vice President for Academic Affairs. And Laurie Hall, who is Vice President for Human Resources and Campus Services. Let me ask them to please come forward.
Good evening, everyone. I would just like to tell you that March is Women's Leadership Month, and we're celebrating that. And in honor of celebrating that, this seminar has been put together. I would like to ask all of the leaders, men and women that are in the audience, to please stand if you've had 5 years or more leadership experience. I know there are a lot of you. Please stand. We want to thank all of you because you are the people that are helping the next generation move forward, and without you, we wouldn't have seminars like this. I'd especially like to thank all the men that came tonight. I think it's critical that we involve you in all of these things and learn from you, and you learn from us. And so again, thank you for coming.
I'd also like to welcome you this evening. For me, this is really exciting to see just the difference between last year and this year. We were in Osceola last year, which is over there. And so we've gotten so big in 1 year's time that we're in the gym. So that to me is very telling of the hard work and effort of the many individuals in this room that put this together. So that's very nice to see. I would like to recognize all the alumni that are here today. So if we could have all the alumni please stand and be recognized. What a great, great turnout. Thank you very much for coming tonight, and enjoy the evening.
I would also like to welcome everyone this evening. It's just exciting to see everyone's faces and the anticipation of a great program this evening. I would like to recognize the students that are here tonight participating. So could the students that are participating please stand up to be recognized? We look forward with great anticipation to see all the exciting things that you're going to do with your careers and come back as successful alumni.
Let's give another round of applause for our female leadership here at Tiffin University. Thank you to each of you for being here tonight. Please note, in your folder you have a color assessment test. I know that Bonnie emailed you. I think you got a couple emails from Bonnie regarding this, but if you did not do it, please work on it throughout the evening because we will be working on it in the later half of the evening. It's the color assessment. It should be behind the event slick on the right-hand side of your folder. Just work on that because that's going to be part of our discussion later in the evening. I would now like to invite our keynote speaker, Rylan Stoner's family, to please stand and be recognized. I know she has a lot of family members in the audience, so please, if you could stand and be recognized, here's supporting Rylan. And now I would like to introduce to you our keynote speaker, Rylan Stoner. Rylan is a Navy employee at the Washington Navy Yard in the Program Executive Office for Aircraft Carriers. She is assigned as Deputy Assistant Program Manager for the USS George Washington Refueling Complex Overhaul Program. That was a mouthful. From the Pacific to the Atlantic, she has exhibited the highest levels of intelligence, composure, and fortitude to lead large teams of primarily male government subcontracted employees assigned to some of the most important military projects in America. As a trained, certified nuclear and aerospace engineer, Ms. Stoner has worked with the Naval Sea, Naval Air, Naval Warfare Command Centers. She routinely briefs admirals and senior executives while participating in Pentagon War Room briefs, naval reactor meetings, shipyard inspections, Department of Defense exercises. Rylan Stoner has served in conditions considered extraordinary and at one point impossible, even for a highly educated trained female. She is young, she is vibrant, and yes, she is a woman. Tiffin University and PEPSICO are proud to welcome from our nation's capital a terrific role model and someone who truly embodies the spirit of leadership, ambition, risks, and boundaries. Please welcome Rylan Stoner. received a phone call from Bonnie asking if I was interested in being part of this women's leadership seminar at Tiffin University, I was ecstatic for the opportunity. But it wasn't until I met Vicki in September or October in the fall, several months later, that I realized that I was going to be the keynote speaker. I went from ecstatic to extremely nervous within seconds. Tonight, there's a lot of firsts for me. This is the first time I've spoken at an event this size. This is the first time I've ever been the keynote speaker on a leadership topic, and the first time I've spoken in front of my family. I've talked to several women in engineering leadership seminars in the past, and numerous career fairs trying to get kids to explore math and science fields, but it's definitely a lot more nerve-wracking when you talk about leadership and topics that are a lot more personal to my life. I have a lot of experience in the engineering field and the leadership field, so I'm excited to be here and share my leadership journey with you. I'm not here to teach you some big truth about the key to leadership success, but I'm here to share what I have done through my journey and to get to where I've gotten and to accomplish the goals that I have to this point. And my hope is that you'll be able to take away some aspects of my journey and apply them to your personal stories. So a little bit of background, I grew up here in Northwest Ohio. I went to high school at Oak Harbor High School, and I graduated in 1998, doing my post-secondary here actually in Tiffin. So I'm familiar with the area, and I have a lot of family that live in the area, so it's good to be back. I feel lucky to have grown up in the Midwest with the strong Midwestern values. I was blessed to be born in a supportive family that actually enjoyed hanging out with each other. This may seem mundane to those of you that grew up here with very similar experiences, but as I've moved around the country and the world, I found this to be a lot less common than I expected. Most people I've worked with over the years don't know their cousins, let alone spend time with their cousins and be asked to be their cousin's godmother to their child. So I'm very blessed to have a great upbringing, and I'm also very blessed to have 13 of my family members here today. So I hope that they see their positive influence on my leadership journey through my stories. After high school, I went to Ohio State. So I'm a proud Buckeye, and I'm proud to be from Ohio. When I was in junior in high school, I thought I might want to go to school somewhere out of state, but thankfully my father sat me down and patiently explained to me the cost difference between in-state and out-of-state tuition. I knew it was more expensive to go out of state, but until somebody laid out the actual monthly payments I'd be paying when I graduated, it really had an impact on me. This may seem like it's not a big deal, but those of you on your leadership journey know, and those who are leaders, know the importance of starting out without as much debt. So congratulations to all of you who made the right choice to be here at Tiffin. It's a great university with a great alumni association and a lot of resources. So you are on the right track to starting your leadership journey without debt. At Ohio State, I enrolled in the engineering department. This is when I first realized women weren't supposed to be good at math. I had spent the last 12 years of my life loving my math classes, unbeknownst to me that girls were not good at math and math was supposed to be hard. I didn't understand why anyone would think that. I came from a family that never once said math was hard. It was expected that we studied hard and get good grades in all subjects, not just math and science. The only thing that made math and science different was that there was a right and there was a wrong. Not a lot of ambiguity in the grading system. So I loved it. I liked right and wrong, black and white. I thought men chose to be engineers because they enjoyed building and designing things. I was shocked to learn that women stayed away from these fields because of math and science. Fortunately, I was naive to this concept, and thanks to all the smart women and men in my family that never planted that seed in my head that I should not be good at math or any subject for that matter. I mentioned that I go around to different schools and career fairs talking to kids about career fields, and I've learned that most little girls make up their mind about what they want to do and what they're good at and what they're bad at about 4th grade. So it was a shock to me when I would discuss engineering and to hear the teachers say, yeah, but it's hard, it's a lot of math. So I encourage those of you that as you start your leadership careers, never to plant that seed in kids' heads. Let them make that decision for themselves. Everybody has strengths and everybody has weaknesses, but not to let them know at such a young age that what they should and shouldn't be good at. And I always encourage them that if they can do math and they want to do math, they should. There's a lot of jobs out there that are available for women and a lot of successful routes to go. So when I started college, I enrolled in the engineering department, and I found myself in a man's world from day one. Malcolm Gladwell wrote a book called Outliers. This book discusses the stories of people's success. Gladwell repeatedly mentions the 10,000-hour rule, claiming that the key to success in any field, to a large extent, is a matter of practicing a specific task for a total amount of 10,000 hours. This was the beginning of my 10,000-hour journey to become a successful leader in a male-dominated society. As I'm sure my family can attest to, I was born wanting to be successful. Being a female engineer, I was the first female engineer and the first engineer in my family. So I always had that drive to want to do more, to want to be more successful for everything I did. And success to me wasn't about being rich. Everybody has to come up with their own success goals. Success to me was about achieving my goals and earning the respect of those around me along the way. My junior year, my class size had dropped from 50% from my freshman year to my junior year, and there were only 2 women left in my graduating class for aerospace engineering. And man, was my junior year difficult. These are the stories that people usually don't tell you in a leadership discussion, but it was after that year that I realized engineers weren't necessarily the smartest kids on campus, but they certainly knew how to work hard. This is where my upbringing and Midwestern values started to show. My parents taught me how to work hard and prioritize what I really wanted in life, and I knew that I wanted to be successful. I would pass several campus bars on my way home at midnight to my car on Thursday evenings, watching all the other students in there having a great time, as I just lived with the frustration of never being able to debug my computer program. As envious as I was of those other students enjoying their Thursday nights, I knew I was where I needed to be. I knew to be successful, I needed to work hard and learn as much as I could so I could enter the workforce knowledgeably and ready to perform. Surrounding myself by other college students that had the same desires as I did really helped keep me focused. I guess I could say that misery loves company, but I try to think of it as surrounding myself with people who have ambition so they can help push me to my potential. Surrounding myself by ambitious people also meant being near at least to one man that could not handle a woman being smarter than him. At this stage of my life in college, there were more men than women. There are more men that treat women as equals than there are that don't, but there's always that one that ruins it for them. Learning how to deal with that individual professionally only prepared me for dealing with this obstacle that I faced professionally throughout my whole life. Dealing with this boy, as I like to call him, while I finished my last 2 years, really just meant killing him with kindness. I was at the stage in college that he wasn't going to affect my position and my career or my education, so kill him with kindness, just like I was always taught by my parents, and always be cordial and polite, and I just tried to keep him at arm's length. It worked for that situation. After my junior year, I decided that, well, that was hard. I'm really not sure that I want to be an aerospace engineer anymore. I had no idea that aerospace engineering meant writing a lot of computer code. I also had been co-oping at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base over in Dayton, Ohio, and I worked summers and Christmas breaks in the different engineering departments, learning the various design and analysis aspects of the aircraft that the Air Force has. I enjoyed the big picture aspect of my co-op rotations, but again, I didn't enjoy writing code or CAD drawings. I knew what I didn't want to do, but I also knew there was no way I was going to change majors at this point. I had worked way too hard, and I had no idea what I wanted to do, but I was not going to quit, and I was going to finish this aerospace engineering degree and hopefully find a job doing something that was less engineering. My fallback plan was, go to grad school and study something completely different. But I was very fortunate that Ohio State had a great career services at the engineering department, which also meant they had the largest engineering career fair in the country. So hundreds of employers came to seek out engineers. I had also set myself up for success, not knowingly. I had good grades, but my work experience is really what distinguished me from everybody else. While I waited in line with the other students at the Boeing booth, I stepped across the aisle to a booth with a shorter line titled Puget Sound Naval Shipyard. Their list didn't say they were looking for aerospace engineers. I struck up a conversation with the gentleman at the booth anyway. This gentleman turned out to be the senior executive at the shipyard. At the end of the conversation, I had scheduled an interview for the next day. Honestly, I still had no idea what Puget Sound Naval Shipyard did, but I knew they were looking for engineers to come work in the Seattle area. And I actually didn't even know what the Puget Sound was. I knew what a shipyard was, but I had no idea what the Puget Sound was. I was clueless. After my interview the next day, I was offered to come to Puget Sound for a site visit at the shipyard and meet with other engineers and other professionals that were my age, as well as the managers, but to see what the environment would really be like. In the meantime, I interviewed with several other companies in the aerospace industry, but after going out to Seattle and being offered a job as a nuclear test engineer, I knew it was the right position for me. Spending my summers getting real work experience had paid off. I knew what I didn't want to do, so I was aware the jobs offered to me that I didn't want and weren't a good fit. I also knew I was able to get a position that I wanted despite not having the exact degree that they were looking for because of my work experience. So all that time where everybody else was bartending and enjoying their summers, all my time co-oping and doing real work actually paid off. I was excited about the opportunity to work as an engineer on aircraft carriers and submarines. From a young age, I was fascinated with fighter jets and aircraft carriers. I suspect this fascination started because my older sibling actually liked aircraft carriers and fighter jets, and I wanted to impress him. So part of my leadership journey, unbeknownst to me, started at a young age when I wanted to impress him and be cool like him, so I learned as much as I could about them so that he and his friends would think I was cool. This may sound typical of siblings, but it definitely shaped who I am now. In my mind, knowledge is power. Learning as much as I can seemed the best way to earn someone's respect, or at a young age, get people to think that I was cool. So there I was, finishing my engineering degree and getting ready to start my professional career. The biggest draw to the position was knowing that I wouldn't have to sit in an office designing equipment, but instead I would get to work on the deck plates and actually work with sailors, mechanics, and do all the testing of all the equipment. I knew nothing about nuclear power, but they assured me that they would train me in nuclear power and I would be qualified to perform the job. I was also excited to be moving somewhere new and exotic. I know Seattle really isn't considered exotic, but for someone who had never traveled east of or west of the Mississippi more than once in my life before that, it seemed like a different world. 2 weeks after I graduated, I packed my car and headed west with my grandma as my navigator to Puget Sound. At this point, I did learn that the Sound is a body of water that had 2 entrances instead of 1. If it only had 1, it would be called the Puget Bay. So if you take anything away, maybe you learned what the Sound is. When I arrived, I realized I was entering an entirely different environment than I had ever worked in. Not only was I in a male-dominated engineering field, but now I was in a shipyard. The shipyard was an industrial environment completely dominated by men too. In the animal kingdom, the rule is eat or be eaten. I was determined not to be eaten. I spent the first 6 months shadowing someone that already qualified as a nuclear test engineer. Then I spent the next 9 months in ship test engineering school studying Navy nuclear power full time. We took 4-hour tests every Monday and preps for our 9-hour exam that we took at the 7-month mark. After the final written exam, we spent 2 months preparing for our oral boards, which consisted of understanding and memorizing every casualty procedure to ensure the reactor would remain safe in an emergency situation. This reminded me of watching my mom study for her exams as a nurse, participating in saving dummies so that they didn't die. She probably didn't realize that I was watching her and the impact it had on me at the time. But me thinking back, I thought, man, she is so smart. She can actually save someone's life. Despite the long study hours and stress, I enjoyed learning a new topic and gaining the thorough understanding of the reactor plant. When I had finished undergrad, I thought there is no way I can go back to school right now. I am exhausted. But the challenge of STE school presented itself. I stepped up to the plate and performed at a stellar level to ensure I would be successful no matter how hard it was. 3 months after I qualified, I was asked if I would travel to Hawaii for 6 months to support their shipyard at Pearl Harbor since they were understaffed. I obviously jumped at this opportunity. I had always had an interest in traveling and exploring other places, but I never had the means to go anywhere. So at 24, being asked to live in Hawaii on Waikiki, it was a no-brainer. I worked the back shift while I was there, so mostly 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., but I had every other weekend off, so I still managed to have time to do fun things. Since I was living on Waikiki, I decided that I should learn to surf. I had never attempted to surf before in my life. I had never really done any adventurous sports outside of what I already knew how to do and what I was comfortable with doing.
Surfing seemed really foreign to me, so before I lived on Waikiki, I never dreamed I would try. I took the advice of my coworkers, signed up for the lesson, and loved it. This just fueled the adventurous side of me. Here I had recently moved to Seattle, took a job as a nuclear engineer, volunteered to live in Hawaii, and now I was on a surfboard every morning for a month. Life was pretty good. I was embracing the change and stepping up to new challenges. About a year after I returned to my shipyard up in Seattle, I was asked if I would cross-qualify from fast attack submarines to Trident submarines. Just means learn a different reactor plant type, which also meant taking the same 9-hour written exam and the same oral board, but I would be tested on Trident reactors instead. Of course, it seemed like a lot of work and a lot of studying, but I also knew that they only asked people that they were confident could pass the test. My ego said yes, I would do it. I worked as a ship test engineer on the first 3 refuelings of Trident subs for a year and a half. Then, once again, I was asked if I would cross-qualify to aircraft carriers. And again, I said yes. Same test, same oral board, just a different plant. But I knew I wanted to do it. I knew that I could do it. Sometimes you question whether staying in the same job would be better because change is stressful. But change also means learning new things and becoming successful at something else. This is when having supportive family really helped out. When I questioned whether I was making the right decision and I would call them just stressed out and breaking down just like I had when I was doing finals, they would always reassure me that I was doing the right thing, and they made me feel good about my decision and that I could do it. I made it through my 3rd qualification on the A4W, which is the reactor plant that's in an aircraft carrier, and moved to San Diego for 2 years, working on the USS Nimitz and the USS Ronald Reagan. Of course, there were technical challenges in taking this route, but there were also personality challenges. Coming to a team of engineers on an aircraft carrier as a senior engineer came with a lot of resentment from others. Though I probably was not as technically smart as they were because I didn't have the time, I was also a very good ship test engineer. I knew the technical details, and I knew I could learn from them, but I also knew how to do the job. Being a good ship test engineer meant having people skills. Big picture, my job was to test all of the components on the reactor plant after they were repaired or replaced. This meant working with mechanics, electricians, and sailors. Bossing people around is never a good idea to get anything accomplished. Talking to people, explaining what I needed to accomplish, and asking for their input was the key to getting things done on the deck plates. Remember, it was very rare for me to work with women, so the leaderships I gained were mostly in dealing with men. I learned the way to be most successful was to ask questions of mechanics and sailors. Incorporating their ideas in my plan earned me their trust. Earlier I mentioned that I had an ego, but my ego was never in competition with others. It was always just a competition with myself, knowing that I could do something. Unlike the men, I was never trying to show up any other person. I was a good ship test engineer and I was a good ship test supervisor because I asked questions, listened, and earned the trust of everyone I was working with. The men surrounding me did not fully grasp the concept until later in their careers. Understanding the limitations of my knowledge made me a better leader and produce a better product. Practicing these skills for 7 years really honed me in on being a good communicator. In my experience, women come into a position and start at a lower level than men in the same position. A woman has to work a lot harder to earn that respect, to gain the same level of that the man came in with. A man in the same position comes in a lot higher and then has to fail in order to lose the respect. So coming in as a woman, I knew I had to work harder and I knew it was important to gain the respect of my counterparts. During this time, I also learned to speak several different managerial languages. How I spoke to younger engineers was different than how I spoke to the sailors, which was also different than how I presented to my senior managers. At the midpoint of one's career, the dynamic of the workforce is different on the different levels of the organization. Younger generations want to be heard, and older generations tend to follow a pecking order. Understanding how to communicate with all different levels of the organization is key to being a successful leader in my field. You want approval from your supervisors, but you also want the younger workforce to gain your respect, knowing that you respect them in return. Learning how to communicate all the levels prepared me for my next position as a nuclear project engineer on the aircraft carrier, the USS George Washington, which was stationed in Japan. Being halfway around the world secluded me from my managers that would be there to support me. But not only was I halfway around the world, I was halfway around the world with a completely different time zone. So communication was non-existent other than email. I continued to use the same approach as I did and ask lots of questions of the engineers that were on my team to make sure they understood that I wanted to learn from them as much as they wanted to learn from me. On top of learning the new technical process, I was also dealing with all personnel issues for the first time. Definitely were complicated being in a foreign country. In San Diego, everyone was able to get around on their own, everybody was able to get their own hotel rooms, everybody was able to take care of themselves. In Japan, I had to put a lot of extra hours in learning logistics to ensure the workforce was happy and comfortable living overseas. This also allowed me to get to know each person on a personal level, which helped to strengthen my relationship and trust with them. Showing I cared about them went a lot further than I had expected. My team wanted to perform a good job because they knew I cared about their well-being, and I also cared that they would be successful in their jobs if they were comfortable. This effort certainly paid off. Not speaking the language, not having the common luxuries that we have here in the United States, cars, apartments, they actually don't have ovens in Japan. This was challenging enough. And then the tsunami hit, followed by Fukushima. This is when I realized that I actually was a good leader. I prioritized my engineers' personal interests before work, allowing them to take care of their families so that they made it to work and were able to focus on their work. Since it was raining contamination, as I like to say, on all of us, we were assigned the mission of getting the ship out to sea away from the plume contamination. This is like taking your car into the shop and having a new transmission put in, and the shop tells you it'll take about a week. You showing up 3 days later, the car's completely apart, everything's disassembled, and you say, put it back together in 4 hours, I need to drive this car away. This is what we did with the aircraft carrier reactor plants. We performed maintenance on both plants that were scheduled for 5 months, and at the 3-month mark, that's when Fukushima happened. Nuclear power, as I'm sure you're aware, is a very sensitive area with very strict regulations and no room for error. It was my team's job to write documents to put everything back together as quickly as possible, and it was my job to ensure every component would be safe to operate, and certainly the reactors. We did this all in 1 week. On top of that, my mom and brother had just flown to visit me in Japan the day before the tsunami. Instead of spending time with them, I was working 20-hour days and worried about them spending too much time outside in the contamination, or they would get stuck in a different city when the rolling power outages decided to shut down the trains and they never knew when they would get back. I'm sure someone knew the schedules, but not speaking the language or reading the language definitely made that a challenge. Unfortunately, their vacation was cut short when the United States evacuated all of the American citizens. The upside is that they got to become really intimate and understand the Japanese culture. Seeing a culture in the time of a natural disaster really makes an impact on you, and you can see how the people behave. So that's the silver lining in their trip to Japan. Through all this stress, I remained calm and professional on the outside. I'm pretty sure my blood pressure was through the roof. I prioritized correctly, communicated effectively, and was able to perform all aspects of my job to the highest level. I communicated with all levels of people, including daily briefs to senior nuclear engineers at headquarters. I was also included in the conference calls between the State Department and the Department of Defense, deciding where to send the U.S. George Washington while we just floated out to sea, waiting for a plan. I guess I had reached or exceeded my 10,000 hours of success in leadership because as the ship pulled back into port in Japan 4 weeks later, several people were relieved of their positions or fired, while I was asked to come to DC to work at headquarters for 6 months after the project was finished in Japan. I did decide to come to Japan. I took them up on their offer, and after 4 months, I was offered a promotion at headquarters working with the aircraft carrier program office. I accepted the job and moved to DC. Of course, like any new position, I was nervous to start, hoping I wouldn't be treated differently because I was an outsider, because I was a female. Surprisingly, everyone thought I was extremely qualified for the position, and not because of my leadership skills. That's what gave me the position, but they thought I was extremely qualified because of my shift test engineer skills. They all knew it was a challenging program to become qualified in a very demanding position. They figured if I could survive that job for as many years as I did, I must be smart or just a hard worker. Having that experience as an STE is what earned me the respect of others, but having the skills and the leadership skills is what earned me the job in the first place. At this point in my career, this had been the 4th position I was asked to take in 10-year period, and I had never said no. Several of the positions were an increase in pay, several of the positions were not an increase in pay, but there were an increase in visibility and an increase in knowledge. I live by the philosophy that it takes 2 to 5 years to learn 80% of a job, but it takes another 10 to 20 years to learn that last 20%. Myself, I'm comfortable only learning 80% and then moving on. That's where I am in my career, and that's where I am on my leadership journey. It's a philosophy I practice and that I will continue to practice until my life and my personal life take another turn. I hope if I do decide to have a family someday, I will continue to pursue my career down a path that is right for me. Research has shown that women typically hold themselves back. It's women that are the ones that make themselves the most nervous. Women are the ones that worry that they will not be able to balance every aspect of their lives, so they choose not to take another position, while their male counterparts typically take that position and say, I'll figure it out when I get there. Women also tend to not take a position until they are 80% confident that they have the skills to perform that job. Statistics show men, on the other hand, will take a job with only 15% confidence that they are ready. I could hypothesize if this is because women are afraid of failure, or because if women fail, she is looked upon differently. But whatever the reasons, I think it's important for all of us women to strive to overcome this 85% rule and take positions that they are ready for, even if they're only 50% comfortable, because they wouldn't be asked to take that position unless they were certain that they would be able to achieve it. I was 85% confident when I went from fast attack submarines to Trident submarines. I was 75% confident when I went from submarines to carriers. And I was 75% confident when I took the role as the George Washington Nuclear Project Engineer in Japan, but I was certainly only 50% confident that I was ready to take a job in DC as a program manager, learning contracts, the business side of it, everything I didn't know because I was an engineer before that. Changing positions also comes with consequences. Being good at your job does pay off, but be aware as you go down your leadership journey, a boss may not be thrilled with the idea of you leaving because losing good employees is hard. When I decided to take the job in DC, you would have thought that I had stolen my boss's firstborn. He was very upset. At first, this offended me since I had worked for him for so long and excelled at my position, but this is when it became important to have that foundation and that family support around you. Because after talking to my family, they helped put it into perspective, and they said he was just upset to be losing me. This was true because when I approached him, he wrote me a great letter of recommendation for my future jobs and said that I could always use them as a reference. Women struggle to segment the different parts of their lives like men do, unlike most men do. Women tend to mentally bring their work home with them, while men can typically separate their work life from their home life. Some like to think this is a flaw in women, but I like to think of it as an attribute. I learned that to be successful at work, I also need to be successful outside of work. I've taken on new challenges at work, so I've also taken on new challenges in my free time. I had never traveled anywhere besides Canada and the United States until I was 27 years old. Since then, I have traveled to 28 different countries in the world. I love learning about other countries and challenging myself physically along the way. To celebrate accepting my new position in DC, I decided to take a 3-week trip to Peru with several of my friends, and we climbed Machu Picchu, rode mountain bikes for multiple days, starting at 14,000 feet into the Amazon rainforest, where we decided to camp for a week. This was definitely a challenge. There was no other people on this road, and none of us had ridden a mountain bike for 4 days. That was definitely, those are good stories. Since then, I've also sailed around the Fiji Islands where I took up scuba diving, something I also thought I would never accomplish, and then I went to Uluwatu and I surfed in Bali for the first time. This is considered one of the best surf spots in the world. It is also known for the most consistent big waves. I will have to admit that I had the opportunity to surf there, and I will say I did surf Uluwatu, but it was on the weird freak day that they had the bunny waves. Last summer, I also decided to take on a new physical challenge, and I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. I just finished my master's in systems engineering from the University of Virginia, and I wanted to celebrate before tackling yet again another master's starting in the fall. So, in preparation for my next master's and in preparation for a celebration of my previous master's, I climbed Kilimanjaro. It was hard, and I still struggle to tell people that I am glad I did it and that I enjoy doing it, because that is actually not completely true. You learn something about yourself, and one thing I learned is that I do in fact get altitude sickness about 17,000 feet. I never knew, because I had only gone to 15,000. But I still made it to the top. I never dreamt that I would visit these places, and I never dreamt I would accomplish all these things along the way. I climbed Kilimanjaro with 3 of my girlfriends. I invited all of my friends to go, men and women, but the only ones that were up for the challenge were the women. When we were speaking with the guys, they said it was very rare to see an all-female group climbing the mountain, but they also said it was very rare to see a female group not make it to the summits. They said women are willing to take on the challenges, but they work together as a team. Nobody's trying to show the other person up. Nobody's on a rush to get to the top. They want to do it together, and they're all there to achieve that goal. That is what we did, and we all summited. There was a group of 5 men from the United States that were on the same track as we were, and only one of them made it to the summit. They made it to every camp about 3 hours before we did each day, but they were the ones that didn't make it to the top on the last day. This concept, I feel, can be applied not just in obviously mountain climbing, but also in our careers. Successful women want to help out the team and reach the goal, which makes them successful. The goal of a company, the goal of yourself, the goal of a family. Having women and having diversity makes an organization better and one that supports its people and the company goals. Jon Stewart had a segment on his show earlier this week that covered the discrepancies in pay between men and women of equal positions. They were talking about how women have come a long way, but they are still at 78 cents to every dollar for men of equivalent positions. At this rate, we will not be equal until 2058. Women make great leaders, so I encourage you to work hard to create equal treatment of women in the workforce. Everyone has heard of the good old boys club, but no one has ever said, wow, look at that good old girls club. I don't want a good old girls club to exist, but I do think it's important to have equal treatments. I hope that you learned something from my leadership journey, and I hope along the way you treat others as you would want to be treated, and you mentor others, especially women. Encourage them to reach their potential and reach their goals so that we can gain this diversity in the workforce. And the younger generation of women aren't led to believe that math is hard and aren't treated as if they shouldn't get paid as much. My leadership journey included working hard and taking on new challenges. I know a lot of people who are very happy in their careers, so I would encourage them to stick with the same career and take challenges in their personal life, because that'll only make their professional life better. Make sure you know yourself and don't worry about what others think. Knowing yourself and being true to yourself will only be your biggest key to success. Thank you.
You're a tough act to follow. Let's give Rylan another round of applause. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for flying in from DC. We really appreciate it. I would now like to invite Jessica Williams, founder and managing partner of Bailiwick's Coffee Company and a member of the new group in town, Women Inspiring Leadership. So Jess, if you could come up here. There she is. At this time, I would like to invite the men's basketball team for the official Tiffin University popcorn break sponsored by the athletic department. We have the men's basketball team coming in, just bring snacks really quick for you guys. I know we've been sitting for a while, so just wanted to insert some snacks for you. So they're coming in, hopefully. Again, this is Jessica Williams.
Thank you, Vicki. Good evening. I look out at all of us tonight, and I am inspired. The leadership, the enthusiasm in this room, it is remarkable. As a woman, I am inspired by the power and the motivation that we all have to succeed in our professions and in our lives. Not because we are women, but because we are women doing amazing, exciting, and innovative things in our professions, in our lives, and in our community. It is my absolute pleasure to introduce to you all tonight a new professional group in Seneca County, Women Inspiring Leadership. This diverse group of women have pooled resources to meet a definite need within our community. Our goals are clear. We strive to inspire, to educate, and to support women to succeed in business and to succeed in leadership roles. I invite you all to take an opportunity to gain more information about Women Inspiring Leadership. Included in tonight's packet, you will find a flyer with information pertaining to our upcoming quarterly programming events, including how to conduct business on the golf course, navigating financial strategies, and delegation techniques to reduce stress. We welcome those of various backgrounds and expertise, and we look forward to furthering the conversation. For together, we will inspire, we will educate, and we will provide support to those in our community and beyond. Thank you.
I would now like to invite Dr. Bonnie Teal to the podium to do the next introduction.
I can't do that. All right, first of all, if anyone left a phone in the women's restroom, hello? Here it is. Leon, can you put it on the table, the reserve table? Thank you. And men's basketball team, how about that? We got some service today. We have some great service. Thanks so much. Hopefully, Alfredo in a minute will get you up a little bit, and we're going to do a little bit of interactive stuff with some actual programming to the leadership style, so you can even get a little bit more water if you need, whatever. So we'll get you up and moving, I promise. How many of you were here last year for this same program? Great. We had a remarkable speaker today, a remarkable young lady. I mean, that was a Kilimanjaro. That was awesome. That was awesome. But last year, we had such a wonderful speaker, a very personal, great friend of mine that's returning every single year that she can. Thank the dear Lord in heaven. But we're also going to be doing some honorees here with Alfreda Goff, who is going to be running our leadership workshop. Alfreda, come on up here. Come on up here, Alfreda. It's about that time. One thing, first of all, Alfreda and I met back around 2000, 2001. She is the founder of the Women's Leadership Symposium for the NCAA, which is also coordinated by another association called NACWA, National Association of Collegiate Women Athletic Administrators. She and I have teamed up to run programming, co-chair of this symposium since then. I mean, we're going to be in Baltimore pretty soon here. She is also retiring very soon. She has a new venture. She is with the Horizon League right now. Valpo had a showing in Columbus, not as great as it should have been, but they had a showing. There's some great things. I've learned so much from this young lady here, and Vicki has too. Vicki has been very instrumental in our Women's Leadership Symposium. One thing that Alfreda has taught us is giving back and giving back unselfishly and inspiring others to be great, to do great things, to be greater than we are. And that's what we're hoping that things like this Women's Leadership Symposium or seminar can do here within the community and the students. She does ones back. She's invited to do some in other colleges as well. And it's amazing what we can do. But one thing she's taught us is giving back, and that's one of your favorite sayings, each one reach one, right? Yeah, each one reach one. Each one here can reach one somewhere. But what we want to do each year is to kind of recognize some people that we think will be from an alumni, a young professional, and a student that we hope will embrace this Each One Reach One award and concept. And with that, the first two people we recognize will be the student and the young professional that will be going to Baltimore this May to be part of the NCAA Women's Leadership Symposium. And that's Lauren Keminetti, and that's Haley Coppola, that I never say her name right. But come on up here, what these say. This certifies these people are deserving of recognition as an Each One Reach One award recipient, as a leader committed to inspiring others through education, teamwork, and compassion. It is so noted, please stay up here for a picture too, that the recipient is dedicated to professional and personal development and has honorably been selected as a participant in the 2015 NACWA and NCAA Leadership Symposium. This is Haley. And for the Alumni Award, and I'd like to invite Steve Hurwitz to also come up here from our Criminal Justice Department, because this is one of our committee members for our Women's Leadership Seminar. Steve has done an outstanding job, and I asked him if he could think of an alumni that really embodies this concept of each one reach one, who is already in the profession, inspiring others, and giving back in their profession. And this goes to none other than Jenna White. And Jenna came in from Washington, D.C. Is she here? Did her flight make it in? Jenna? Oh, good. Come on up. We thought I'd heard from you earlier today. I went home to change and I said, Jenna was going to text us. But thank you. So again, these are our Each One Reach One award recipients. And if you guys can, congratulations. Can you guys gather on that side right there for a picture? Let's get a nice group picture over here. Let's put the award recipients in front. You're tall though. I'm tall. But now Rita, put you in front. And then we go in between. Yeah. Congratulations.